tail end of this trip down in Tampa, Florida. Andy Elliot and Myron Golden holding this entrepreneur summit down here on Friday and Saturday. Today's Sunday. We did a big beach day today. Did a big workout with my client Austin Laudette, who's on Andy's team. Stayed at a nice ass pad down in Indian Rocks Beach with a bunch of killers this weekend. Just good people, just good vibes, people wanting to get better, people not cool with the status quo, people that know that if they stayed in their own lane by themselves and aren't looking for new environments and trying to get into proximity of people that are going to force them to grow. And I couldn't be happier with the outcomes and like the epiphanies and the just the nudges I've given myself and gotten from all the amazing speakers and all the amazing people that I talked and conversed with over the course of the whole weekend. Getting here on Thursday night, I didn't know what I was getting into. We ended up having uh, some steaks, eating them with our bare hands in the hot tub over here. Super primal. It was honestly like once once in a lifetime thing. I've never actually done that before, which is kind of funny. That was like the first impression of this trip and this crew that I was staying with. We were just doing funny funny stuff like that. And then like all day Friday, up at I don't know 5 a.m. 4, 5, 6 hours of sleep or something like that. Full day up until God knows when. I think I did 4 or 5 hours of sleep every single night this weekend, but my spirit was like in such a high spot that it didn't matter. It didn't hit me like it would have had my health not been in a great spot, or my spirit, as I said, like my vibe, my pretty much my just energy flowing through me, like my focus. My focus wasn't coming from a high perspective, and like somebody who's eager and yearning to learn, I really wouldn't have had an amazing time because I would have just been focused on, oh, I haven't slept, oh, I didn't get the right food today, oh, we skipped lunch because the speaker went over or something like that. Um, I made a lot of dope connections this weekend. That's where I have the most fun. It's like connecting with people, meeting people in real life. I'm all for social media, consuming and learning and whatnot, but it's not real. You get in person, it gets real. And a lot of people have been asking me like, why are you supporting Andy Elliott? Like, um, how can you argue that this is the guy that you want to learn from? I saw a different Andy Elliott this weekend. Like, I was blown away. Um, he has completely reframed the way that he's going about transforming yourself as a man. He had this quote that I love. It hit me like a sack of bricks when I first heard it, but chase the man, not the money. So many people are focused on the outcomes. What are you going to get at the end? Um, how do you make a buck? How do you get the girl? How do you get the body? All this different stuff instead of just like going straight to the source, becoming the man, working on your personal development, getting closer to God, right? Just changing yourself from the inside out and being real with yourself about what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong and where you need to think differently. Myron Golden was speaking about how, yeah, if you just, as I said earlier, you stay in your lane, you're not putting yourself in environments where you're going to get called up to a higher standard, you'll self-destruct. You'll just chill and hang out until you just kind of wither away. You got that thing going on, homeostasis, where your body really doesn't want to do any extra effort if it doesn't need to. And that is especially true in business, in life, in your health, and so many different things. Like even with my fitness, I think that I have the perfect plan, which I do, but I need to get in environments where other guys are kind of pushing me to go for one more. I was speaking about this with my client Austin earlier. It's kind of tough to tell where your strength capabilities actually are because it's all based off your mindset. If you don't think you have one more rep in the tank, you don't. But if your buddy calls you to a higher standard and says you definitely have another one, for some weird reason, you're able to crank out another one or another one or another one. My buddy Truman down in Charlotte, we were working out in New York when he was up visiting me one time, and he was about to rack the weight. I said, "Nah, dude, you got another." And this man, like, believe it or not, cranked out another 6 reps, blew his mind, had an epiphany right then, changed his workout routine from there forward. Um, that happened to me this weekend, right? Because I work out alone. I had some other guys that we did a sick workout with in this cool little bodybuilding gym, which we almost didn't get to. It's kind of crazy God's plan and how everything works out for a reason. This first gym that we go to, it's on a Sunday. I was kind of late from church getting back to the house, and we were going to clean up, go to the gym, and then go to the beach after. And this gym that we tried to go to, the first one, you would have had to scan in with like a card that, as if you're like a member, because they're actually closed, like no staff on Sundays. So if you're trying to go there with the day pass, you're kind of SOL. Same deal. Um, we went to this other bodybuilding gym, and that was like 10 minutes away, and we probably would have been stuck in the same boat, but some lady let us in there, and we were able to pay for the day pass online, and it was a sick workout, sick lighting. We showed Austin some pro tips, stuff that you can't really understand in just getting help from me through the online space. Like it was really cool being able to be there in person with him. I love being able to meet up with my clients. I got a program that allows that, and if ever you are one of my clients and you're anywhere near me up in New York, definitely let's lock in and hang out, because that's where some bigger transformations happen outside of what we can talk about on the call. Because if I can take a look at your form like in person and see from different angles, my clients can send me videos all the time of like their form and whatnot. But if I can like walk around from different vantage points and like see where you're bringing the bar down, like there were so many different things. Like me, Austin, and then Sean, we were talking about where to bring the bar onto your chest when you're doing incline. If I'm not there to poke the part of your chest where you should be touching the bar, you're just going to be guessing like, okay, halfway between my collarbone and my nipples, right? When I'm doing incline, if I'm able to be there and just like touch it, like that's where you make bigger transformations, bigger, quicker, faster leaps and bounds in the direction of your dream physique or whatever the goal might be. And like that's kind of the key in meeting up in person for these masterminds, is we can hit stuff from different angles, and there's so many different eyeballs on you that are going to be able to sniff out your blind spots, because you by definition cannot see your blind spots, no matter how smart that you think that you are or self-aware or whatever. um, I've been cocky enough in the past to say that I have no blind spots in fitness and health, but that's just not the truth. There's somebody out there that has a bigger, better context than me, or at least from a different perspective that I can learn from. Even if we are super aligned, there's usually at least one thing that I can learn from every person. And that was another huge benefit of coming to this event, was just like meeting up with the people that weren't even one of the speakers. Just like they were taking notes just as I was, and we all took different notes because we probably heard different things, because we have different perspectives, and our focus is selective for different things in the words, the intonation of the voice, and the volume, the eyesight, what we got going on in our lives. Like maybe I was in the bathroom and there was this really key thing, and I missed out on some context that would have connected the dots on 2 other ideas that I thought were really powerful. But this guy did, and he brings that up. Or just like in our riffing session where we're just kind of like freestyling about what the takeaways from the event were. Like he just mentioned something that I hadn't heard before. So it's all about just being together, right? Like it was actually really cool to see how many people came to Christ this weekend. Um, I'm obviously Orthodox, so I'm not really huge with the non-denominational churches and whatnot, but the most important thing is that somebody confesses their life for God, you know, loves God and loves each other. You know, love God and love each other. Those are the two most important commandments in all of human history. Um, yeah, like that's the most important thing, is that you love God and love the ones around you. And it's just really cool to see people profess their love for God, and in that way, go out on a limb to inspire the other ones around them. I watched a room full of men just like run up to the front when this one pastor was speaking about some really, really serious things that he had experienced in his life, like some miracles, like the mother of all strokes. He was talking and walking around, articulating himself really eloquently in the Word of God in front of us, which was amazing, right? Like, he shouldn't be able to talk. He should low-key be a vegetable. But by the grace of God, he was in front of us. Thank God, because of this miracle. And I saw so many different people coming to God. That is the most important thing, is that you put God at the center of your life. Everything works more efficiently if you do so. Not that I'm in this like prosperity gospel thing where the more that you love God, the more money that you're going to make. But that is step one. Put God, put the church at the center of your life, and you got to put yourself in the hospital for the spiritually sick. We're all sick. Even the pastors, even the priests, even the highest people in the church are spiritually sick. We need somebody to call out to us at certain times, just because you're not always going to think smart, right? You might take a little time off from church, and like as you do something less and less, it gets easier to do it less and less, as that law of homeostasis states. And yeah, just like watching other people walk with God is sometimes the inspiration that you need to continue your walk with God, because it's not always going to be super enticing. Like somebody asked me on my Instagram story recently, what motivates you to keep pursuing and learning about God and walking with God? And I answered pretty quickly, it's witnessing other people's devotion to their faith. And I referenced this story about how this guy in my church, he was telling the story in Bible study at the end of last summer. And I thought this was insane when I heard it, but it makes so much sense now, and it was like so inspiring at the time. He was mentioning how his son, who's an older guy now, he's like, I don't know if they're in their 30s or what, but this is an older gentleman speaking about this. And his son was going to be he got picked to be on some travel soccer team or something like that. And this soccer team would have had like eyeballs on him, like scouts for college teams, where he would have potentially been able to get a scholarship for for a really important school, and win a lot of money, so you'd be able to take advantage of a bigger, better opportunity, especially as far as the education goes, or the program for the sports, or whatever it might have been. And this team that he got picked to be on, they got the schedule, they got all the information about it, and it turns out that the practices were going to be on Sunday mornings, smack dab in the middle of the divine liturgy for our church in the Orthodox faith. And this gentleman who's in my church took one look at that and said, "We're not doing that. We would have to miss church. Church is a non-negotiable. Walking into the house of God, worshiping on every Sunday is a non-negotiable for me." And he said, "We're not going to do it. We're passing up on this opportunity." And the person that was given that his son the chance was probably like, "Are you serious?" But they don't have the ears to hear. Like they're not willing to love God the way that they really should. It's amazing to me to hear these stories about how people are denying the world and loving God instead. You're either loving the world or you're loving God. I myself, for too many years, was loving the world. Still right now. Like there's so many different things that I still have to work on. I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. Something that just reminded me too is like last weekend we were down in St. Louis with the Modern Exodus event. And Andy Frisella was talking to us at his farm on one of the days. We actually like rode a tank around. That was pretty cool. Um, or actually, it wasn't a tank, but it was like a military vehicle, kind of resembled a tank to like the non-military type guy like me. But anyway, Andy said as we were doing this exercise, or we were talking about, hey, like, what are your issues? What do you do wrong? Like, where can you improve? And where are you falling short of the man that you know you're supposed to be? And we're supposed to write down on paper like what we're doing wrong, and we're going to confess it to a group of guys in smaller groups afterwards. Before we all spread out, Andy goes, "There's only one human being in human history that was a perfect man, and he ain't one of us." And that's the damn truth. We're always going to fall short. Um, we are met with God's grace no matter what. And it's like this past weekend, all I could think about was like Andy was laying this out perfectly. Like I can't give Andy enough credit for what I heard. Um, it was amazing, but he just was laying stuff out, and it was kind of just like, here's the info. It's your choice whether or not you want to take it. Like almost acting, basically like setting up another scenario of free will. He's not forcing it down anybody's throats. It's definitely over the top, like insane, crazy maniac, like super, super engaged and outward and enthusiastic about his craft and what it can do for people's lives because he knows the benefits and he knows how powerful it can be because he's got so many different um, testimonials and like examples and case studies of people that he brought from here to here. And yeah, the idea is like, this is here if you want it. You can go after it if you need to. Um, but it all comes down to like, hey, if you don't put God at the center of your life, you're sort of shooting yourself in the foot. Again, like chase the man, not the um, not the money, right? Don't chase uh, don't chase heaven, chase God. If anything, like you want to be close to God. We don't want to get into heaven just to like get into paradise. You want to get into heaven because you want to be closer to God. You want to be in love with God, like in a super deep, important, uh, beautiful relationship with God. You don't want to be like in a relationship with a girl just because she's hot, or just because she's her parents are like rich or something, or whatever like the materialistic thing would be. Like if you're just trying to get into heaven because it's like paradise, that's the materialistic way of thinking. It's like a worldly desire in a way, um, which is kind of part of the problem with all these other religions. Like Christianity, in your walk with God, you should want to get into heaven because you want to be with God, you want to be with the Lord. Um, I can't remember the name of the saint right now, but he was talking about how I don't want to be here anymore. Like he was literally saying, like, I wish I could pass away in a way. Not because I hate my life, but just because I want to be with the Lord. And I think that's really powerful. And that was pretty much what Andy was arguing today. Like that's what Myron was arguing. That's what all these guys that came up with these transformative stories, and like majority of the speakers, like maybe like a dozen people spoke, and the majority of them had confessed their devotion and love for Jesus, and like explained their story of how they came back to God, or came to God, and like their specific circumstances, and how it was the turning point, and that was the foundation for everything. Put everything on God's shoulders, not on your own. And that's kind of the problem in this like money game, um, or anything that you're trying to progress in. Like with your physique, you're just constantly like putting it all on yourself, all on yourself, all on yourself. You are not God. You are not a perfect man. You are not Jesus. You can't handle it the way that that person would. But like that doesn't mean you shouldn't strive for it. And I think that was another big part of it, is like, yeah, you're always going to fall short, but that does not mean that you shouldn't aim for perfection and theosis, and embodying Jesus, becoming a little Christ. becoming the saint that God created you to be. Um, and it's just like it's been such a transformative weekend because I'm starting to think so much bigger, and that's kind of the point I wanted to make with this video is like, you know, I was definitely getting really focused on a lot of these like details and metrics and like, um, an example is like, say say that you wanted to get a six pack, right? Like, you don't want to just go after the six pack. You want to go after the things that will get you the six pack, right? Same deal. You don't want to just go after a car because if you were awarded a car today, like say that somebody gave you a Lamborghini, I guess yes, you could sell it, right? But it's not like you acquired the skills of creating Lamborghinis out of thin air. You just got like an asset, which is some money. But if you don't know what to do with that asset, or you don't have a system set up to where it's going to replenish itself over time, like what good is that asset? It's kind of like these people, they get awarded these cars and then they don't have the money to pay the car insurance or the registration, like whatever the car or the maintenance, right? Sometimes uh, the maintenance, like an oil change for one of these supercars can be like thousands of dollars. It's actually insane. Um, but same deal with your physique. You don't want to just get a six pack because if you don't know how to keep it, or if you haven't built up the metabolic process, that hormonal balance where your thyroid is thriving and all your stress hormones are in check, you're really just going to be constantly torturing yourself with energy expenditure and low uh, caloric intake to keep the body fat off of you. But if you turn yourself into like an anabolic powerhouse where your metabolism is functioning so high that you couldn't possibly overeat and you're just eating to your own satiety and you're only working out as much as you need to maintain muscle or gain muscle or work on your cardiovascular health, then you're pretty much good to go. Then, if you create a system where you're able to follow that and without like hating your life 24/7, which is why I just do the 3 days a week and build strength because it kind of gamifies the training. Once you create a system where there's positive feedback loops developed within, then you're good to go. You want like a self-sufficient system in each of these areas of life. And loving God is a self-sufficient system. Glorifying God, um, asking for forgiveness, repenting, all these different things, loving God, loving each other, this is the source. This is what you want to get to. You don't want to just be pharisaical and follow all the rules. And I know I'm Orthodox and I'm all about, being religious and the theology and all that different stuff. And that's all very important too, because I can't worship God how I want to. I have to follow his will. And there's just so many different things I could say about this weekend. It's like we're so prone to these like desires and passions. And Andy said something really powerful in the beginning of day one. He said, the devil doesn't want you to listen to what I'm saying right now. He doesn't want you to level up your life. He's going to tell you to rationalize. He's going to make you, zone out, not pay attention, want to check your phone, want to gaslight yourself into thinking that these people are all, thinking, crazy, or like they're out of touch, or that this isn't going to work for you, or that, yeah, that was a special scenario, or that it's not going to work once you, say the same exact thing, or whatever it would be. But that doesn't mean that you have to give into it. It doesn't mean it has to be the truth. He's going to set you up with all sorts of different temptations and roadblocks and problems, or false reassurances that you're doing the right thing and that you're in the right mind, and that this is just how it has to be. It doesn't have to be like that, right? Like, follow God, make God the center of your life. The other thing Andy said was work on your relationship. If you're married, a girlfriend who's going to be your fiance and then get married later, or whatever the part of the process you might be in, your relationship is honestly everything. After God, your relationship is everything, because that person honestly dictates where your mental sanctity will be. The most important person in your life after God is your spouse. And honestly, your marriage to that person is a symbolism for your devotion to Christ, because you are a bride of God at the end of the day. Um, it's all about just going straight to the source. Chase the man. Better husband. You know, maybe you're a sinner, but you need to be repenting, asking for forgiveness, doing God's work. Good works, faith, but the most important thing is love. Because if you focus on love, everything will fall into place. My priest told me this one time. What is the most important thing for getting into heaven, or um, to I think that's the question that he actually asked. It's like, what's the best way to ensure that you're going to get into heaven? Everybody said so many different things. You know, uh, repent, ask for forgiveness, like pray, have a prayer rule, go to church every Sunday, um, spread the gospel, all these different things, like read scripture every night. The answer was love. You can apply love to everything. That is at the base of what everything is. And love is God at the end of the day. God's love is something that we truly don't deserve, but it's there for the taking, right? We have the free will to accept God's love and return it, so we are in that relationship. Um, a lot of this weekend was reminding me of that parable of the prodigal son. And if you notice, like once the prodigal son comes to his senses, he comes back home, and he doesn't even have to get all the way back to the house. The father runs out to him before he even gets to the house. And God is just waiting for us to come home, right? Like, you don't need to make a deal with God. Like, God already wants, he's already like extended his hand. We just have to extend ours and make the connection, so to speak. But yeah, like even when the prodigal son did finally meet up with the father, when they met in the field, the father didn't even really talk to him, didn't listen to what he had to say. Um, the son was asking to be his servant, or like apologizing and stuff. Didn't even talk to him, didn't even look at him. Just got him the best ring, the best robe, and they slaughtered the fattened calf to have a feast, because he was rejoicing that the son had returned home. And I think there's a saying that there is joy amongst all in heaven if one sinner repents, versus like the perfect, Christian, so to speak, getting into heaven, right? So that's kind of the key I've seen this weekend, is working on your personal development is what's going to fix everything. You don't need to chase all these details about like getting the physique or the money or the perfect wife or whatever, right? God is the answer in all. Like that's like the trickle down effect to everything. And at the end of the day, that's the same thing for fitness. Like, that's why I talk about hormones and micronutrients and making sure that you are healthy from the inside out. Like, it's literally a physique cheat code, but it's also a productivity cheat code. You'll be able to work harder and longer and faster and smarter, and you're going to have better relationships, because you're not dealing with feeling like you're low energy, and you're fighting against your emotions all day. You have like a lot of emotional turmoil in poor health. One of the speakers this weekend, they spoke about how if you have your health, you have many priorities. But if you don't have your health, you have one priority, which is to get your health, right? So if you don't have the optimal state of health, and obviously this is a spectrum, but if you don't have an optimal state of health, like that's step one, because it gets in the way of everything else. It's like walking a tightrope. Your whole life is just handicapped if you don't have the energy, vitality, brain power, mental focus that God designed you to have. And it's really just in adding all these man-made substances and activities that do not align with how God made us to thrive. And that is our natural state to thrive, right? Um, or it should be, anyway, because a lot of people, their natural state, which is like them slipping into that homeostasis where they're just kind of drifting and coasting and whatever, they will self-destruct with enough time if they are not constantly reminding themselves, putting themselves in positions or rooms where people are going to remind them of what the right things are to do, and aligning themselves with the role models that they're looking after, which for a lot of people is like celebrities, which is not good because celebrities are kind of screwed up. It really should be the saints. And who did all of them model? Jesus Christ. And that's kind of the key of this weekend, man. Following God, embodying Jesus anyway. And that's the most important thing for your soul. It honestly doesn't matter what happens on this earth, but still, what's the best way to love God and love each other? Like in loving each other, we are also loving God because we all come from God and we're made in God's image. Um, I'm just kind of rambling here, but I'm just so excited for getting back to New York and keeping this energy that I've acquired here with all these amazing people, just like the whole weekend. Just so great. We just went out to dinner. Like, it was supposed to be like 10 of us, and it ended up being like 15 of us. Went to the beach today, played some spike ball, got sunburnt. I'm probably looking like a tomato right now. Um, yeah, man, I'm just out here, like sitting by the water. I'm about to go inside, go to sleep. I'm gonna hit the airport tomorrow, fly back to New York, and it's go time, man. I've been thinking so small. This is like I'm living out what I'm telling you to do right now. You can't just stay in your lane. You need to constantly be putting yourself in different rooms, which are going to pull you up and call you up to a higher standard. Um, I think really highly of myself, and I think it's understandable for somebody who is in my position to do, because you get a little taste of money with business, and when you get into a better physique, you have like a certain amount of pride. But these are not the end goal. These are just kind of like symptoms of these things that really just come from vanity at the end of the day. People get into business for the wrong reasons. People want to get into shape for the wrong reasons. Um, but it's just about keeping your head on straight and not falling susceptible to these passions and these desires. Like, I think it was Paul Trubenbach, that Orthodox priest on YouTube that I follow sometimes. He says we're prone to pride. I don't know where he got that from, but it's so true. Like, we are all so prone to pride and self-centeredness and putting the spotlight on us, whether it's from like a, hey, look at me, I'm such an awesome spectacle side of things, or like a, woe is me, I'm a victim, feel bad for me side of it. Like, both of those are pride, just different sides of the spectrum. Um, anyway, this has been a long one. I gotta go to bed. I probably look like a maniac. My eyes are probably all shiny and stuff. But yeah, man, life is good. God is great. The future is bright. God bless.